Hey, this is Sky, and you are now listening to lookupimher.e. I'm here. This is The Hustle, episode 6, season 2. It's a continuation from the first episode, The Self, and where we left off at the rebound. As you know, I'm still talking about my 20s and circling back. It's been a while, so I want to send my apologies, and I want to say thank you so much for still writing this out. Life happened, so I was lifing, but let's go back to the hustle. So Sky, myself, I was adapting to the mental instability, and then I needed to go back to the drawing board. So the rebound really brought a lot of light to how I just couldn't love anyone else, because I still struggled with the word and what love really meant as a whole. I preached that I only had myself, I fought myself, I hated myself. But then when shit got real, within a split second, I'm either on defense or offense mode. Sometimes I'm on both. And my mental stability was really off. I had to always shift gears, and survivor mode was my drive, was what kept me in the grind and hustling my way to succeed. And it was regardless of how broken I was internally and emotionally and mentally, I was the only person who can maintain. And being on survivor mode is what I only understood. You know what I mean? Like, my daughter depended on me. She depended on my strength. So survivor mode wasn't an option. You know what I mean? So it was a test, and it was something that I had to take care of every single day. It was part of my world. It was my duty. And it took me from parenting to multiple jobs. I was on autopilot 90% of my life at that time, more like a robot. So I didn't really feel. I never ever sat in my emotions or stopped for a second and wondered, like, how do you feel? Like, that's a conversation that I have now in my 40s. But in my 20s, when I was like narrow-minded, like my focus was so linear, it was so tight, that hustling was all I knew, because it was basically generated from fear. It was fueled by fear. And so, I disconnected from the reality. I only paid attention to the purpose and to the goal. And that was my main, objective. That was my grit. That was my grind. Focus. Focus on the plan. And, disconnect from anything else that makes you feel. Disconnect from anything else that makes you feel good or bad. Who cares? You are a hustler. You have to maintain multiple balls and keeping them up, like a juggler. And what fueled me was the fear. You know what I mean? So basically, I kind of did not appreciate family. I didn't appreciate siblings. I didn't appreciate a lot of things in my life, because to me, I needed to keep the lights on. I needed to make sure that my child's needs were met. I had to make sure that the bills were paid. I had to make sure, handle my responsibilities at that time. So survivor mode plus hustle mode is all I knew. You know what I mean? And during that time, pretending was just easy. Getting money, finishing up all the education, all the degrees, acquiring all these degrees was my focus. And that was it. So sometimes, thinking back, when people be like, oh, you need to live life, or you need to live in the moment, or you need to enjoy the leisures of life, that was such a far, far, far thought for me. Like, enjoy, what the fuck is enjoy? You know what I mean? Like, I'm a robot. And, you know, love, what the hell is love? Robots don't love, you know what I mean? Like, they barely cry. So, you know, I didn't pay attention to it, which kind of like included me not paying attention to myself, because the only thing that I was paying attention to is the hustle. You know, like the hustle. Like, when someone asks me, what does hustling mean to you? Of course, not in the illegal perspective, but it's like hustling is getting up every single morning, making sure that everything is intertwined, everything is working in order, and that is your sole purpose in life, is, you know, handling your business. You know, fuck your pain, whatever your mind is going through, stay on focus, stay on goal. You know what I mean? Everything else will compensate back, you know, in the future. I wasn't thinking so far in my 40s. I was still thinking of today, like today. So hustle, to me at that time, it was generated by fear. It was generated by surviving. It was generated by, like, I gotta get this money to make sure that my ass is not back in the shelter, to make sure that my behind is not begging or asking anyone to do anything for me, feeling subjected, feeling enslaved, feeling like I owe, feeling that I didn't have a purpose, and that was it. So at sometimes I think back and I'm like, damn, you know, life passed me so fast. Sometimes I don't even remember my 20s, you know, and then I didn't care if I remembered or not. It was just like every single day, it was like, you gotta keep going. You know, you can't burn yourself out. You gotta keep going. You gotta keep going. You gotta keep going. But then I'm like, going where?